the future, whether it's where I'm going to live, what, and I think, first of all, breathing deep. I mean, feeling the fear and then deep breathing, like to calm down the nervous system. If we activate our nervous system, we activate the fear response, which just makes the fear worse. I used to get literally like terrified of public speaking. I mean, definitely there was trauma around that, but anytime I had to speak in a group or in front of people, my fear response would get activated, my heart rate would increase, I would turn red, I couldn't breathe, and it was like a nightmare. And so if you'd ever told me that I would have been speaking, I spoke at the UN about my dad and emotional, and I've done tons of speaking all over the world on our work, and breathing through the fear is really amazing. I mean, as soon as I noticed that what would happen is I'd stop breathing, my heart rate variability would get lower, which is not a good thing. And I would activate the fear response, and then it would just get worse. So just breathing, deep belly breathing to calm down the nervous system and get myself into a more rational place, because usually when we're when our mindset is in a rational place and we're in the more evolved part of the brain, we can come up with solutions. And if we can't, I meditate on it, or I call people I know. And if I need to, I get therapy. And if I need to, I get medication and combine that. But it's a lot of self-work. And I find that it's a lot of our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people stop breathing when they get scared, and then they make it worse. And now science is showing that.
Mm-hmm. Have you, so because you brought up breathing, have you looked into Wim Hof and kind of the work that he's been doing around breath?
Yeah, I have. So I am not a cold water chick. I mean, I love that people do that, and I think it's amazing. And it is mind over matter, and I think it's a great example of how we have much more control than we give ourselves credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I participated in one of his things, and I have not taken up the cold water thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I like my hot baths.
I just started, coincidentally, I started his course last week. So I love the breathing part of it. And the cold water, it's starting to, when you talk about being in the moment, I am definitely in the moment the cold water hits.
Right? Exactly. I mean, it does exactly that. It totally takes you in the here and now. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I love that people are experiencing that, it's a great, That's so funny that you're doing it. Good for you. You can tell me. You can keep me posted.
I will keep you posted through this and especially my journey through the cold water. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but it's like getting your body, when your body is in extreme state, it's like keeping control of your body. I mean, I think it is amazing what you can do with breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, breathing has saved me from presentations. Like now I can go, I just, as soon as I feel it, just deep breathing, and I'm like, who am I doing this for? It's not me, it's for all of the people around the world that are suffering, all the kids, and I share the message for them. So yeah, it's been quite a, but I love that he's doing that.
Yeah. So in the work that you're doing, what are some of your favorite resources to look at beyond the ones that you're creating and your own organization for people to look at about, mindfulness and health in both physical and mental?
Yeah, that's great. Well, Psych Central is an amazing resource that was kind of started before anyone was doing this work, but from experts from all over the world on just like the psychology and mindset and mental health and depression and just all kinds of different topics. It's free. I love it. PsychCentral.com. I like Thrive Global a lot for stories. Let's see. I like getting my research from places like the World Health Organization or the UN. I don't know. I mean, I read so many different, I get my information from so many different places and so many books. And, I've been on a very self exploration journey myself. And I've used all of that to kind of inspire and, incite me. Youth, youth in general, like I am so inspired by the youth, and I helped found it's called Why Mental Health. It's the Youth Mental Health Coalition, and it's from like organizations all over the world doing work with youth. And I think they have so much to teach us and share with us. So yeah, so many different sources. I love Michael Singer, who wrote a book, The Surrender Experiment, and really for the first time convinced me that, you don't have to be actively running after kind of business, that you can kind of be still and allow your thoughts and your feelings and your inspired actions to bring the right things to you. So, he lived in the middle of nowhere, Florida, and created a very successful company that was bought by WebMD. And I just, from a business standpoint, found that so inspiring.
Yeah. So with everything that you've done and experienced so far, what would you say has been the best advice that you've ever received?
Oh no, the question.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know. That is such a good, I can't think of like a specific, one thing that, so my dad was a retail banker. He worked for the First National Bank of Chicago, and he had a friend by the name of Paul Carter, who then became like a father to me. And I remember his story. His name was Paul Carter, and he was, advisor to my work for my nonprofit, and just really has been a fantastic he's now since passed. But, he told me a story about how he was having an argument with a supplier. He was having a discussion with a supplier. He became the CFO of Walmart. And, the supplier, something happened, and the supplier changed something and was going to cost him millions of dollars in business or something. And so he was just having this discussion, and he said, he got on top of his desk and he's like, I just have to tell you, I'm so angry. I'm so frustrated right now that I'm standing on top of my desk, and he wasn't yelling at the supplier. He wasn't, using kind of control to change anything. He was expressing how he felt, and his way of dealing with it was like by standing on top of the desk. And I just think that is like, he was such an honorable, ethical human being, and so kind and really steadfast in faith, and such a great example for me. And I look at that and I think, it's, you can feel anger and you can embrace the anger. You don't have to like lash out about the anger or be, aggressive or abusive, but you can experience it and you can share that you feel angry, and that's okay. And that was just, that story kind of always really stuck with me. And one other thing that I just recently found is a quote from Sam Walton. So I knew Sam when I was very little, and I was, I'm trying to get Walmart into my happiness movement. And Sam had a quote that says, "Lose your smile, lose your customer." And I just think that's such a powerful, like you've got to be kind to people and connect with people. And it's not important just in life, but in business, it matters. It really matters. So that really stuck home with me too.
Yeah, wonderful. Kathryn, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, and go through all of this. I know you're incredibly busy, and it means a lot. If the listeners would like to read more of your work, potentially join your happiness course, or just follow everything that you're doing, where is the best place they can go for each of those?
Yeah, so I mean, I have my own website, which I listed some of the projects, but my name is hard to spell. So ifred.org is probably the easiest, ifred.org. That is the nonprofit, and you can find links to Hopeful Minds, which is where we have the curriculum. And then the Mood Factory is the company. The Mood Factory is the company, and it has the course and also lists my book there. And yeah, so, but Kathryn Goetzke is get the ski, but it's spelled a little differently, but that's how you can remember it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So I will put all those links in the show notes, including the link to your personal website at Kathryn Goetzke, so that people can click right through and join this and look for the resources that you have available if they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now, as many of us are. So again, Kathryn, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and take care, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Advance Your Art podcast. If you like this episode, please go into iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button so that every single time I release a new episode, it will go directly to you without even thinking about it. If you're interested in hearing older episodes, please go to advanceyourart.com, where you can find the catalog of everything I've done so far, as well as contact information and projects I'm working on. Thank you again, and have a great day.